I'm on my nature walk for today, and I had a little message drop in my spirit for y'all. Well, a little lesson rather. And this one is about giving. I see a lot of people always talking about what they gave to something. Generally, it's a relationship. I'm not finna do that whole, oh, it doesn't have to be a relationship. It could be something else. Most of the time, it's a relationship. Let's just be for real, okay? What is up, QC fam? It is Queen Chef, Chef Author Healer. I am a chef by trade, writer by gift, healer by nature. I teach and mentor healing strategies based on 4 pillars. Those are self-love, energy alignment, inner child wounds, and purpose discovery. Today, I'm going to be discussing when people feel like they are giving too much. Generally, most of us start to feel like this after we've already discovered, it's very clear, like way past the giving point, that we've done way too much, we've given way too much. And unfortunately, for some of us, that leaves a very bad taste in our mouth about giving as a whole. So one of the things I want to touch on first is, before you start to really give and share with a person, before you start to really get into exchanging, and we got to remember, quick sidebar, we have to remember like what giving looks like. It's not always going to be material things. That's number one. So this first point I want to make is learn what others value before you share things with them, before you give things with them, even if you're just doing it out of the kindness of your heart, because this is a lot of our issue. It's like, I was just being a good person. I just thought we were on the same page. I just thought, think. Listen, first, make sure you guys have similar values. Even if you don't value all the same things, make sure you have similar values. One of my personal experiences is I have magnetic energy. I have a light about me that really makes people feel uplifted. People can, feed off of it. I share my energy. This is just something, I'm not bragging. This is just something I know about myself. These are things you have to know about yourself to know how you show up in the world. For one, so that you don't show up as prey, because when you show up as prey, you attract predators. So listen, you have to be aware of what you give, what you offer, even just through your energy as you move throughout the world, as you navigate relationships and things like that, right? Me knowing that about my energy, in my personal experience, one thing I've learned to see is that if they don't value what you value, then to them, it'll look like you gave nothing. That is where values come in, and that's why it's important. Because if you're not a person who values energy, values light, if you're not a person who's willing to acknowledge that is something you benefit from when you deal with me, then you're going to feel like I gave nothing. You're going to feel like I gave you absolutely nothing. If your value is placed on material things, and I've never given you a material thing, but I came around you, gave you advice, laugh with you, share with you, and let you feed off of my energy, then you're going to act like I never gave you anything. And when it comes time for us to either no longer be in friendship or partnership or whatever, you're going to say, I did nothing for you. I gave you nothing, knowing all the while, or maybe you didn't know because you don't value it the way I do. You don't see it the way I do. You're going to pretend like I never did nothing for you. I never lifted you up in anything. A whole time, every time I come around you, I'm getting drained. Every time or when I leave from around you, I need to go and recharge, or I can't be around you too long because you're taking from me in me giving advice and me giving my light and me sharing with you myself, just my presence, me sharing that with you. You taking from me, right? And now it's not always an issue. Sometimes you want to give and you want to share that. Sometimes people need that uplifting. But what we have to be mindful of is get to know what's valuable to others before you just start giving. Because they'll use that against you. If it's not a good person, or if it's a person who's struggling with their own character, after a while, they'll use that against you. So that's number one. Before you start really giving and pouring into things, figure out what they hold valuable. Figure out what they see as a benefit, or as something that really, really pours into them. What do they think they need poured into them? Because if they don't see what you're giving as valuable, they'll pretend like you never gave them nothing. That's number one. And that's going to leave you hurt in the end. Now, the second thing I want to address is, once you realize you've given too much, you don't change who you are because someone has abused your desire to give. You don't stop being a good person because someone took advantage of it. You change who you're good to. Meaning, eliminate that person. You get rid of that person, not yourself. That's how that works. And that's where a lot of us get messed up at. A lot of people get stuck in that space where, you know what, I'm just not going to give. I'm just not going to, participate in relationships. I'm just going to back away from all of it, because that puts you in a stuck place. And then you have to further heal and further do more discovery, because that place where they had you messed up at, basically, you get stuck there. And now you're hindering your own blessings, because one, you don't even get to be free and authentic. You don't even get to just exist and be who you are. Your whole makeup is now at risk, because you don't get to just be and give in the way you like to give. You don't get to just be around people freely. Like, you're on guard now. It puts you on guard. And that's never a good place to be, because when you're not living in your authenticity, you're not able to manifest. You're not able to put out the energy that, that lifts you up. And the last thing, speaking of that desire to give, now this one is going to sting a little bit, but when all is said and done, when you realize you've done too much, when you realize that it's too much, you've been taken advantage of, possibly you've been abused in a sense. When that's all said and done, and you're in, whether you're in that stuck place or not, what you do have to go back and look at is, where does your desire to give come from? Now, it really can be truly pure, as in you didn't want nothing back. You just thought you were helping. This was somebody you cared about. So you just wanted to give. You just wanted to share. You were able to do something. You saw a need and you filled it. That's usually the case for most good people. That's usually the case for most of us. It's like, I just saw you in need. I was able to help, so I did it. That's usually how it works out. But it's not always that simple. And this is the part that stings. We have to look at, where were you giving from? And why was your desire to give so freely? Or why did you have the desire to give just so freely, without doing emotional and mental background checks, without waiting it out to see if this was a user or not? Why were you willing to do that without any research? And it's going to boil down to a few things. Either you're a people pleaser, and you have to go back and figure out where those people pleasing tendencies come from, or you are seeking validation. And sometimes these things can overlap. Sometimes they're intertwined. Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's all. But the point is, you have to go and look at where it came from. Why were you willing to give so much of yourself so freely? And it usually to someone that we could, in my case, I'm gonna give you an example. In my case, when this happened to me, if I had waited maybe another 60 days before I really started to pour into this person, really started to give, if I had waited a little bit longer, I would have seen what I needed to see and saved myself some grief. But I didn't. So I had to, by the time it was all said and done, I had to go back and look at myself and say, what made me even just give like that? Like, why was because the first level on the surface, it's like, well, I'm loyal, I'm a good person, I'm a Leo, I like to give, we're kind-hearted, all these things like we tell ourselves. But the reality, I was codependent. I had a need, and my codependency came from that desire to help others. But the reason was, I won't say it was for selfish reasons, but it was because I still needed external validation in a way. I still, like, I'm going to call it what it is. I'm going to call a thing. And I don't ever mind. I'm going to tell the truth about me, because that's how we get to the healing portion. And that's how I've been able to move on and help others do this work, because I had to be honest with myself first. So I was codependent and I was still seeking external validation. And that's one of the biggest issues in a lot of dynamics with other humans, because we want their approval at the root of it. Now, on the surface, this didn't show. It didn't look like desperation for approval. It didn't look like I needed anybody's validation, not on the outside, but at the core of it, when I dug deep, that's what it was. And once I was able to identify that. So you have to identify what it is for you. It could be people pleasing. It could be, like I said, codependency, the need for validation. It could be your own selfish desires to just, your own selfish desires for approval, but disguised as a good heart. You know what I mean? Is whether you have a motive or not, it truly could have just been pure, and you wanted nothing in return except for maybe that other person to be better. And But even if it was pure on your end, there's a root in there that you have to address about why you overgave, why you did too much, why you gave without making sure that it was going to be reciprocated first. And it's not that every little thing you give has to be like, it doesn't have to always be a tit for tat kind of give and take, but you do need to make sure that what you're giving can be reciprocated. What you're giving, the other person has the desire to reciprocate. A lot of it will boil down to even just them having the desire. Because sometimes if you wait a little bit longer, you'll be able to see and identify that this person doesn't even want to give to me like I give to them. And in most cases, now that's going to be a user. You're going to be able to identify that, but you have to give things time. You have to let things play out. You have to talk to yourself about why you rushed into something and just started giving and didn't make sure this person could pour back into you the way you poured into them. Sometimes it goes beyond even the people pleasing or the codependency, and it's a self-worth issue. I've dealt with that one too. There's a self-worth issue there. You don't always feel valuable. You don't always feel like, oh, this lighting was way better. I should have been right here. You don't always feel valuable. You've told yourself that you don't matter as much. And sometimes this be so suppressed. It be way down in there a lot of times. So this stuff don't show up on the surface. These are things you have to sit back, whether you journal or whether, like me, I hike. And this is when I get my best thoughts. This is when I get my best realizations. Sometimes I'll just stop and meditate in the middle of the hike to see what information comes to me. I ask the question out loud and I stop and meditate, and I let the information just come back to me through meditation. It don't always come right away. Sometimes it may come to you later in a conversation with another person. But either way, my point here is be mindful when you are giving. And most of the time, for most of us who are just natural givers, you're going to overgive at some point. And when you realize that you have, like I said, you got to take a step back. Don't get in that stuck place. You have to sit down and sit with yourself and find out, why were you so eager to give? Or why were you so willing to overgive? Or why did you give so much without receiving anything back? What in you was okay with any of that? What in you was okay with allowing that? Those are the types of questions you have to ask yourself. What was I looking for out of this experience? What am I lacking? Like, these are things you can use as journal prompts, or just ask yourself out loud, like I said, and then meditate on it and see what comes to you. It could be rooted in a self-worth issue from childhood. It could be, I'll give you an example again, one of my self-worth issues in all kinds of different situations that showed up. But for this one in particular, one of my self-worth issues was throughout my childhood, I was made to feel like my needs were not important and other people's needs. But something my mom, and I love my mom, she's a giver as well, but sometimes we grow up and we realize we have to teach ourselves that there's no reward for overgiving. There is no badge, like giving to others instead of yourself or neglecting yourself so you can give to others is not the badge of honor that we are sometimes taught that it is. It's just not. Self-sacrifice on behalf of another, it's not the badge of honor that we think it is. And when we learn that, we come out a lot better, because that's that whole concept of pouring from your overflow. You don't pour from what's in your cup, because once you give some of that and nobody's pouring into you, you lose. Because once it's gone, it's gone. And if nobody's pouring, if there's no pouring back, you just have a half empty cup, or sometimes an empty cup. Some of us pour all the way till we don't eat. And you got to fill your own cup back up. And we all know that's a struggle. We all know that's a struggle. Figuring out that whole dynamic of how to fill back up. That was the little lesson that dropped in my spirit on today's hike. And I wanted to share that with y'all. That's related to my self-love pillar. That's related to that inner childhood pillar. Those two can be tied back to this. Hello, how you doing? Those two pillars can be tied back to this conversation in more ways than one. Queen Chef, chef out the healer, chef by trade, writer by gift, healer by nature. I'm so glad you guys are here with me on this YouTube journey. I appreciate you. If this is your experience or has been your experience at any point and you feel comfortable, drop a comment and let me know it hit home for you. If not, just leave me a heart if it was a blessing to you. If anything in it was helpful to you, share it with somebody else. Like, subscribe. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe before you go. And again, I appreciate y'all as always. I am grateful y'all are here with me. I hope you are learning. Go check out the other videos, and there's so much more to come. In the meantime, y'all be well. Take care. I'll do the same.